who are here. So I will give points to those who open their cameras, okay? So Turquoise, Annie, Ting, Santi, P, Kim, Tanya, Leo. Please turn on your cameras the whole meeting, okay? Because I want to see you. And then remember, if you would like to answer, you just raise your hand so I can unmute you, okay? Okay, so let's start by sharing our screen. So let me share first our screen to you. So good morning, everyone. Can you see our screen now? Okay, so let's start with our topic. So last meeting, we have the different types of rocks. So what are the different types of rocks that we have last meeting? We have the 3 types of rocks. What are those? Last Monday, remember, for our recorded video, we have different types of rocks. So the different types of rocks are the 3 types of rocks are, what are the 3 types of rocks? We have, okay, I can see your chats there. Please stop chatting with each other with some Thai words, okay? Please pay attention. So, last meeting, we have the 3 types of rocks, the igneous rocks, the sedimentary rocks, and the metamorphic rocks. So, how those rocks are being formed? So, that is what we're going to have for today. So, we will have the rock cycle. So, let's rock with the rock cycle. So, what is rock cycle? What is the rock cycle? So, in more traditional definition, rock cycle is a sequence of events involving the formation, alteration, destruction, and reformation of rocks as a result of natural process. This is from the Glossary of Geology. So this is how they define the rocks, or meaning how is rocks being formed from minerals into smaller rocks, okay? How are they formed? How are they altered? Become igneous? How do they become sedimentary, and how do they become metamorphic rocks? And then we also have the formation. How are they formed? Okay. But before we look at the rock cycle in detail, let us review first some of the basic information that we have or that we need. So remember, what are the 3 different types of rocks? So we have the igneous, the sedimentary, and the metamorphic rocks. So this one. So the igneous is from the last meeting we have. It is from the lava, okay? From the lava and magma. So igneous rocks are formed from magma and lava. And then some of it become metamorphic and some of it becomes sedimentary rocks. And metamorphic also can become sedimentary, and the sedimentary rocks can form again into igneous rocks. So forming rocks are just like a cycle, okay? They from lava and magma, they became rocks and then sedimentary rocks, and they form again to become lava. So what are the different? So igneous rocks are formed by magma and lava as it cools down or as it cools. Igneous rocks form into different ways. So they are formed inside and inside of, remember the intrusive and extrusive igneous rocks. The intrusive is the rocks that is being formed inside of the volcano, or it is from the magma. And then the extrusive igneous rocks is from the lava outside of, they are formed outside of the volcano. So rocks that comes from lava cools down very fast and can be either be light or and airy, or the rocks can be glassy. So these are the different kinds of igneous rocks. Some are glassy, some has holes, some are very light, and some are airy, meaning air can pass through them. And rocks, these igneous rocks that came from magma are formed underground, and they are oftentimes very hard. Remember those rocks that is found and, under the surface of the earth or formed from magma. From magma, they are very hard and more colorful. So here it is go. Here, the granite can be formed inside of the volcano, and then it will goes out. Some of it will become pumice, kind of igneous rock. Some of it will become basalt, and some of it become obsidians. Okay? These are now the rocks that being cools down and goes to the ocean. We call them obsidian. Okay. How about the sedimentary rocks? Sedimentary rock is made when sediments or sand, gravel, and dirt are pressed together over time and becomes rock. Remember the layering of rocks? These are the layer of rocks from, where is it came from? From the dead plants and animals, and then also the small particles of rocks, and they are being formed together. They stuck together and then press, and they become sedimentary rocks. And these are some example of sedimentary rocks. So the limestones, the shale, sandstone, and the granite. Also, these are the different kinds of sedimentary rocks. Now, what about the metamorphic rocks? So metamorphic rocks are made from other rocks. This is a combination of rocks, okay? For a long period of time, they become metamorphic rocks. Because of the heat and pressure, it helps change an igneous or sedimentary rock into a new kind of rock. And it's just like the caterpillar. Remember, the caterpillar is from egg. How they become metamorphic rock, it is like how is the life cycle of caterpillar happens from egg larvae into a pupae and becomes butterfly. So same with these rocks. They are from different rocks and they form as a metamorphic rock because of the heat and pressure, okay? Can you still follow? Are you still there with me? Okay, so now the rock cycle. So this is how the rock cycle happened. From the volcanic eruption, it turns into an igneous rocks, and then the igneous rocks will have sediments or small particles that will settle into the ground and combine with the other minerals like the dead plants and animals, dead animals, and then they will form into sedimentary rocks. And then the sedimentary rock for a long period of time, because of the heat and pressure, they will become metamorphic rock. And this metamorphic rock will go back to Earth again. It stays on Earth. And then as they compress, they go under the ground. And then they will melt again into magma. Okay? And then after that, when the volcanic eruption again happen, it will turn again those magma into lava and become igneous rock again. So this is how the rock cycle happens. Okay, for us to understand it more deeply, let us have it the parts of rocks, okay? And how are they being formed? So rocks have many different parts. Rocks can be sorted into groups by looking at their parts. Some parts are crystals. So these are the minerals that we can get from rocks, crystals, and grains. So what are the difference between the crystals and grains? So these are the crystals. These are like the gemstones that we can use for our jewelries or different kinds of things that we want, okay? So crystals are different atoms that are formed in pattern. They can be big or small, and some of them are fat and thin. Okay, crystals have different colors too. So they have, okay, so crystals have different atoms that are formed in patterns. So they have different colors. They also have different kinds of crystal. We can also get different kinds of crystals from different kinds of rock formations. So another parts of rocks are grains. So not all parts of rocks are become or they become crystals. Some of them are some of the parts of the rocks are grains. So these are the grains from rocks. These are the smaller particles within the rocks. So grains are smaller pieces of rocks or sediments. Grain size is something that is used a lot to help to decide the rock type. So we can distinguish or we can identify the rocks based on their grains, according to their grains. If they are smooth or rough kind of rocks, okay? Rough grain or smoother grains rocks. So if we were to ask a geologist, geologists are the people that study the earth surface or the materials that earth made of. So what do you think they are going to say what the earth is? So what do you think that the response would be? So they can say that the earth is made up of this one, the crust, the upper mantle, the lower mantle, and the outer core and the inner core. What is the relationship of this about rocks? Remember, earth is made up of crust. Crust, this one is the soil, the outer layer of the earth is the crust. So most of the part of the earth is made from rocks, okay? So this is how it is related to our topic about the rocks. So now that we better understand the largest concept of geology, let's move on to the smallest component of geology in studying rocks. So there are hierarchy of elements that we can, before it becomes rocks or minerals, there are the hierarchy or the step-by-step way of identifying the elements in geology of the geology. First, atoms make up elements. We know that atom is the smallest particles of matter. And these elements combine to form natural compounds. Compounds like gases and other minerals. So we have natural compounds and elements to combine to form minerals, okay? And then minerals make up rocks. So this is the composition or the hierarchy of an elements or particles before it becomes rocks. So from atoms that make up elements, and then the elements that combine together, they form compounds. And then these natural compounds and elements that being combined together will become minerals. And then the minerals make up rocks, okay? And then the rocks make up the earth. So most of the parts of the earth is made up of soil. Remember, soils, the soil or the smaller particles of the soil, they are also made of tiny particles of rocks. So based from the atomic theory process that all matter is composed of the atoms of the different chemical elements, if further process that chemical compounds are formed by combination of atoms of different elements. So we have different kinds of elements. This one, you also study this. So these elements based on the periodic table or into the periodic table, we can identify here which elements are or have the same elements with rocks, okay? They have minerals and they are minerals that we can found from rocks. So what are those? So these are 8 elements that we can found that make up the 98% of the earth. So this one is sodium, Na, this one is Mg, number 12, which is magnesium, and K, calcium, potassium, K for potassium, Ca for calcium, Fe for iron, and this one is aluminum and silicon and oxygen. So these 8 elements make up the earth crust or the earth's surface. So these are all made of rocks. So remember, rocks, we can also find different compounds or different kinds of minerals from rocks. So iron, calcium, sodium, potassium, and magnesium. So we have this already. So remember, atoms make up elements. Elements combine together to form natural compounds. Natural compound elements combine together and become minerals. And minerals make up rocks, and then the rocks make up the earth. Don't forget those hierarchy of elements. So what are minerals and how can we tell what are they? So these are the naturally occurring and organic elements or compounds having an orderly internal structure, a chemical composition, and the characteristic chemical composition, crystals are formed or crystal form. Those are the minerals a while ago, okay? And physical properties of a solid. So minerals combine to form rocks. Remember those crystals and grains? When they combine together, they form rocks. So some rocks are made up of just one mineral, like the sedimentary rock or the rock salt. It is made from mineral halite and that is mined in different or near the seas, okay? The rock salt is a kind of rock, a mineral, okay? Sedimentary rock salt, they are a kind of rock that is made up of mineral halite, and another rocks are made of minerals like the igneous rocks. Remember granite in our lesson last time? And the metamorphic rock, the gneiss. Okay, this one. So now that we know all the basic things that we need to study the rock cycle, so let's now move on to this one. So I want you to remember this word, weathering or weathered, eroded or erode, transported, meaning to transfer, deposited or to deposit, and to litified or to form sedimentary rocks. So how are sedimentary rocks being formed? So from metamorphic rock, sedimentary rocks can be formed from, this is the igneous rock, our igneous rock. So this is the cycle, remember? So igneous rocks can be formed or can be turned into sedimentary rock because of the weathering. And metamorphic rock also can be turned into sedimentary rock. So the arrow meaning it can be formed into. And the sedimentary rock can be formed into an igneous rock. With this kind of process, okay, by weathered or weathering, erosion or eroded, there's an erosion, the process of erosion, the process of transportation, and then the process of the deposited or the deposition and the litify. So what is weathering? Let us first have the meaning of weathering and erosion from the word or from the eroded or erode, or we can say erosion. So the word weathering is the process of breaking down. Remember, breaking down or making it into small particles of rocks, into small pieces, physical, meaning we can see them in physical, chemical with the use of other elements, and biological weathering. There are three types of weathering. So these are the three types of weathering. So we have the physical weathering, chemical weathering, and biological weathering. Remember, weathering it is not the weather that we know for the rain or rain or shine. That's different. Weathering is the breaking down of rocks into small pieces. Okay, physical weathering can be caused by change in temperature. So how does physical weathering happen? It is because of the change in temperature. Example, here in number 1. So we have here, it's very hot. The temperature here is hot because it has a sun. So sun can affect the weathering of the rocks or the formation of the rocks or breaking down into small pieces. And also, if it is at night, what is the temperature at night? It is cold, okay? Because there is no more sun. So what happened here, it is cold already. So what happened during the day, when the sun hits the rock, it expands, okay? Rock expands. Expands meaning it becomes bigger when it is hit by the sun hits the rock, it becomes bigger or it expands. And during the night, when it cools down, when it is already cold or the temperature is colder, the rocks contracts or become smaller. Okay, they contract. These repeated expansions, when it is happen every day, and then it weakens the rock becomes weak, and then it causes the rocks to break down into pieces. If there is too much heat and too much cold, it breaks the rock into small pieces for a long period of time. But it is not an overnight, okay? For a long period of time. So that is how physical weathering happens because of the change in temperature. from hot temperature into cold temperature and then change again into hot for the next day. And for the following day, it will change again into cold temperature that helps or that enables the rock to contract and weaken to break down into pieces. So that is what you call weathering. How about the physical weather? The physical weathering can also be caused by repeated freezing and melting of water. Okay, this is happen in the places where there is snow. They freeze and then they melt. Okay, the water freezing and melted. So the first step is how does other rocks become smaller rocks, the big rocks? So first, base from or with by the repeated freezing and melting of water. So number one, water enters rock through a cracks. So we know that rocks has cracks, okay? They have cracks or they have small spaces. Rocks has spaces in between. So when the water enters those cracks, and then when the water freeze, it expands. Okay, the cracks from the rock expands. This causes in the rock to widen or it becomes wider. And then when the ice melts, it contracts, the water gets deeper into the rocks, into the cracks. This one, it now goes deeper when it is melted. Okay, when the ice melted, remember here it is freezing. And then when it freezes, the rock widens. And then when it turns into liquid again, the water gets deeper into the crack. And then for a long period of time, repeated expansion and construction, if it goes the same again and again for a long period of time, construction widens the rock and causes the rock to split, okay, or to separate. They separate and then they form into smaller particles of rocks like this one. So this is what happened or the cause of weathering by repeated freezing and melting of water. This happens in the places where there are snows, in a cold temperature in temperate countries. Okay, how about the biological weathering? So this is the third kind of weathering. This is caused by living things such as plants and animals. The roots of plants can enter the cracks of rock, like this one. The roots of the plants, as the roots grows bigger, the roots also, as the plant grows bigger, also the roots grows bigger. Okay, the roots grow bigger and this happens, this widens the rocks in the rock and causes the rock to break apart. Okay, it helps the rock to break apart. So this is an example of biological weathering. Biological meaning has life. These living things can affect the weathering. So plants can affect how the rocks becomes smaller in pieces or turn into smaller pieces. So when it turns into smaller pieces, these smaller particles of rocks goes to the water. Remember, it combines. It the combines with the other particles or the other dead plants and animals. So the roots of plants can burrow deep inside the rock and causes it to break apart. So that is what we call biological weathering. How about erosion? So that is weathering. Now let's talk about erosion. Okay, how does erosion affects the formation of the rock or the formation of sedimentary rocks and formation of metamorphic rock? So erosion is a process whereby rocks are broken down and carried away. Erosion means it's eroded. It's eroded. Okay? Can be carried out by running water. So in the river or glaciers, waves, or wind. Like running water in the rivers and streams erode rock when they hit them. They carry some of the rocks and move it into other places or other into the sea. Okay, so from the mountain, the rocks from the mountain, from the waterfalls, it can move down to the river and to the oceans. So the running water may carry rock pieces which can erode the rocks along the river. Also the waves. Waves erode rocks when they hit the coast. Example, in the coastal areas, okay, there is the waves that hit the coastline. This can also this can also cause the erosion into the coastal areas. If you happen to go to different islands, some of the islands, they have higher possibility of this erode caused by waves that hit the coastline of the island. Okay, a glacier can erode rocks when it moves down a mountain. As it moves, it scrapes the surface of the rocks and carries them away. Remember, they strip the surface of the rocks and then carries them away. So that is why they move to the other places of water. Okay, so next we have the fourth one is the wind erosion. Rock formation can also be caused by wind erosion. So this happens or this occurs in the dry, sandy areas, like in the desert, okay? So there is up, the wind pick up small sand particles and bring them to from one place to another. Look at this one. So this is a formation of rocks caused by wind erosion. So those are the three types of weathering. First is physical weathering, biological weathering, and the water and wind erosion. Okay? So in your book, you have this one. So the three types of the rocks on Earth are the igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic rock. Rocks can change from one type to another, and rock cycle shows how rocks can change from one type to another through many processes. So these processes are continuous and take millions of years. So remember, large rock particles can be broken down into small pieces by weathering. The small pieces of rocks can be moved to another places by erosion. So rock particles settle to the bottom of the seabed as sediments. And over time, sediments build up in layers. This is known as sedimentation. Eventually, sedimentary rocks are formed through the process of sedimentation. And then the sedimentary rocks can be pushed deep below the Earth's surface, and the high temperature and pressure cause these rocks to become metamorphic rocks. So these sedimentary rocks that being pushed deep below the Earth's surface with the high temperature and pressure can become metamorphic rock. So this is how we explain the rock cycle. And then when the metamorphic rock are heated at the high temperatures, they melt to form magma. So this is how the life cycle of rocks happen. So let's have an illustration. So this is our illustration. So when the magma rises to the Earth's surface through volcanoes, when cold, igneous rocks are formed. Here is the magma. When it is cooled down, this one, the cooling, it becomes igneous rock. But when the igneous rocks melted, they become magma. So igneous rocks, just follow the arrow. So we have here the igneous rocks can be affected by weathering and erosion, become sediments, and these sediments, with the process of sedimentation, it becomes sedimentary rock. But if the sedimentary rock causes weathering and erosion, they turn or they become sediments, okay? And also, the sedimentary rocks, because of the high temperature and pressure, it becomes metamorphic rock. But if the sedimentary rocks were melted, it turned into magma, okay? And if the metamorphic rock caused by weathering and erosion here, it becomes sediments. And this metamorphic rock can become sedimentary rock. So this is how the cycle happens, okay? And this metamorphic rock, when it is melted, it becomes magma. Remember, all these three types of rocks, when they are melted, they become magma, okay? But when the magma cools down, it becomes igneous rock. The magma cannot become metamorphic rock. It won't happen. It becomes igneous rock first, and then the igneous rocks with the high temperature and pressure become metamorphic rock. Look at this one, the red one. It has different colors. The red arrows shows that the high temperature or pressure, it is because of high temperature and pressure, they become metamorphic rock. These two igneous and sedimentary rocks. But if they are, this yellow arrow here shows melting. If these three rocks are melted, they become magma. And this orange here, the orange arrow, shows weathering and erosion. These three rocks can become sedimentary rocks. Sediments, only the sediments can form sedimentary rocks. Igneous will undergo first weathering because before it becomes sedimentary rocks. Also metamorphic rock. It will also undergo weathering and erosion before it becomes sedimentary rocks. Okay? So these are all happens in the rock cycle. So tomorrow, so it's almost time. We have only 1 minute. So tomorrow class, we will continue about the rock cycle and we will have to answer all the exercises in our book, okay? So please prepare your book tomorrow. So I'll stop sharing. I hope everybody are still there. Are you still there with me? So only few has a camera there, okay? I can see some. Okay, so here is our attendees for today. I hope you get all what I wanted you to learn for today about the rock cycle, okay? So for you to recall the topic about rock cycle, I'll just post this video afterwards, okay? So here we have 51 present today. And only few, this one only has their camera turned on. So I'll give points to those people with their cameras, okay? So this ends our presentation for today. So we will continue next Monday about the rock cycle. Okay, goodbye and thank you everyone. See you again on Monday. Okay, goodbye.